All right, well, good morning and happy rainy Sunday morning, Central Georgia. It's actually kind of a welcome sight to see we finally have some showers in the area. It's been a long time since we had any sort of rain. And I think it's just going to be a little bit of a brief thing, probably something that we're dealing with through the morning and then into maybe the early afternoon. But by the time we get to later this evening, we're back to the sunshine. So let's talk a little bit more about the rain chances for the day today, what's heading our direction, what we're expecting to see, why this is happening, and then there are some changes as we head into the work week that we're going to talk about as well. So we're going to break all that down as well as the tropics. There was an area of potential tropical development that the National Hurricane Center has highlighted as an invest. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what that means and what we're expecting to see with that system. So let's go ahead. I'll take these graphics full screen for you, and then we will go over everything that I just talked about. So we'll start with the sky cams right now. You can see across all 4 sky cams, it's just a little bit of a cloudy, dreary sight out there right now. It's not necessarily a terrible thing, like I mentioned. It's going to be brief, and we kind of need the rain, so we'll take what we can get, and it's just slowly going to make its way to everybody. It looks potentially like downtown Macon could be dry, or at least in some sort of a lull right now, but everybody else, you can see the raindrops falling, and this will just kind of be the scene through the morning into the early afternoon. You also can see in Perry specifically the flags blowing around there. In the Warner Robins Skycam, I occasionally saw the Skycam itself shaking around. We do have a little bit of a breeze out there as well, and the breeze is going to be picking up through the afternoon also, even as the rain starts to leave us. So that's what things look like outside right now. Let's talk a little bit more about what's going on in terms of numbers and in terms of the satellite and radar. So right now you can see temperatures are on a bit of a spread. There's mainly low 60s up in our northern and western counties. Once you start to track your eyes a little bit further towards the south and east, the numbers begin to get a little bit warmer. So what's really going on is it just took those areas down in the south and east a little bit longer to start to see some of the rain. In fact, when we flip to the satellite and radar, I'm sure some of them still haven't seen rain. So they've had the chance to have some clear skies this morning, which has allowed the temperatures to climb up a little bit warmer. They are already in the upper 60s, where the rain has already fallen and where some of the rain cooled air is, the temperatures are in the low to mid 60s. So we will actually climb up into the 70s today, regardless of where you are, because again, there will be some clearing in the afternoon. And then the temperatures are really going to take a big change as we head into the work week. So we'll talk more about temperatures in just a minute. There is not a terrible amount of moisture out there, but it's not quite as dry as it was earlier this week. You're seeing mainly light green color across the humidity map. Obviously, if it's raining out there, we need to have enough moisture to support enough rain to fall. So we have a little bit of moisture. It's not necessarily totally dark green muggy, but we've got enough to have some showers in the region right now. And you can see before the front comes through, which is actually the line that you can see right here, the flow is coming in from the south. So it's starting to filter in a little bit more moisture down from the Gulf. But now that the front has come through, we will start to see winds coming in from the north. So we'll see a correction in the humidity as we go throughout the day today. We have had some good wind gusts, like I mentioned on the sky cams. From time to time, we've seen them get up to around 25 miles per hour. Some of this is related to, or most of this is related to what's going on with the front. And like I said, winds actually will linger as we go throughout the rest of the day today. Frontal boundaries are essentially a big, massive change in the air mass that we have over our area. And usually these large differences in pressure between the two air masses cause an uptick in the winds. So that's what we're going to see through the day today. The cold front is actually going to increase our breeze. Right now it's increasing our breeze where we actually have a couple of showers and even a couple of storms that may have had their own gusty winds as well. But we'll keep the breeze up through the afternoon and into the evening tonight until things kind of calm down into next week, although there is another cold front on the way, so it actually could end up being a bit of a breezy week overall. What you really need to know for the day today is just that it's going to be a little bit of a dreary start to the morning. Into about the mid-morning, maybe early afternoon, we'll continue to deal with the cloudy pattern, occasional showers, and a little bit of a wash of a morning. But by the time we hit the afternoon, some of the clouds will still be there, but the actual rain chances will take a big hit. We'll start to be a little bit clearer in terms of rain. And then again, the breeze will settle in and we are going to be much calmer for the second half of the day. It won't be cloudy all day long. I think by the time we get to later this evening, so maybe around dinner time to late night tonight, that's when the skies will be a little bit clearer as well, and we'll just start to be under what's going to be the pattern for the upcoming week, which is really, really clear weather. Once again, the high is going to be in the 70s today. Once the rain calms down, temperatures will have the chance to climb higher than where they are right now. So there's a look at our big weather maker from this morning. It started out in the west, really started out much further to the west yesterday, and actually was a bit of a troublemaker for states like Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, Tennessee. They had several severe thunderstorm warnings as well as a couple tornado warnings yesterday also. So this was a much more robust system as it was out towards the west. They had a lot more instability in the air over in those areas. And as it's continued to sweep towards the east and make its way to our region, you can even just tell by looking at it how much less impressive it's gotten. The biggest changes for us really happened when it was over Alabama, starting to cross state lines into Georgia. It was just starting to kind of lose the darker red colors. You can see that, and that usually indicates that we have lighter rainfall happening. The lightning strikes become a lot less frequent, and just the overall shape it takes gets a lot less organized. You have a lot less of that bowing happening, and just where you can tell that it was really gusty in terms of the wind speeds, it just looks overall a lot less impressive. The air that we have in our area right now is extremely stable, so we don't kind of have the ingredients that we needed for severe weather. This was just really not one of the things that was in the picture for us, luckily, so we just kind of have had light rain in the morning this morning. So this is where the satellite and radar stands a little bit closer to us. We had this sweep in from the west, mainly from the northwest into the southeast. There is another little push of some heavier showers down in our southern counties, so kind of south of 16 this morning. And that will continue to push towards the east as well until everybody has had a little bit of rain this morning. Overall, it's not been a ton of rain. You probably have noticed it through the morning this morning, and there occasionally continues to be some lingering drizzle even in the areas that have seen showers, but it's not necessarily going to make for crazy rainfall totals through the afternoon today because the colors are just pretty light and it's a quick mover. So we're getting a lot of this rain out of there, and it's just not very heavy in terms of how much we're seeing. But now it's pretty widespread. Earlier this morning it was really confined to the west. We're starting to see that leading initial line creep its way a little bit further towards the southeastern counties. I'd say maybe places like Johnson, maybe parts of Washington, Trutland, Montgomery, Telfair, Wheeler, they may not have seen rain just yet. This is kind of the leading edge here, but it will continue to make its way towards the east. This back section here may cause some showers for areas that have already seen rain, but it is moving in the same direction out towards the east. So up in our northern counties, pretty light to sometimes steady rain. Again, these are areas that have already seen rain just kind of on and off through the morning. And down in the south, again, that's where the heavier sections are that I was just talking about. Heaviest rain right now looks to be over Macon, Dooley, and Crisp counties. And again, this will, continue to push out towards the east through the morning. So I mentioned earlier that there was some gustier winds out in Alabama. There was a little bit of a possibility that as this line made its way from Alabama into Georgia, some of the gusty winds could have been carried over from the west into the very western counties in Georgia. Overall, as I watched this thing this morning, it didn't really do that. I mean, there was a couple of winds that got up to around 40 to 50 miles per hour, but you can just see now when you're looking at velocity like that and you don't really see any areas of super bright colors along this leading edge where the front actually is, it's just an indication that the winds aren't very strong. So we can occasionally, again, have wind gusts that you can probably notice, but they're not necessarily super impactful. So that's been a good thing. But like I said, it wasn't necessarily a concern. We weren't really paying attention for severe weather. It was just the potential that maybe one or two storms could get a little bit gusty this afternoon, but so far we've kind of stuck to the forecast. The SPC did not outline us in any sort of severe weather risk. They kept it to the south and to the north of us, and that's been the case through this morning and into the afternoon, so that's been good news. So let's time out the rest of the morning here. We're at about 10 a.m. now. This is, I would say, fairly close to what's going on actually on the radar. Remember, that's something that we look for as meteorologists, is just kind of how these models are performing compared to what's happening on the radar right now. I would say this is not too far off, so we can kind of go with what the graph is saying for the rest of the day. We'll just keep dealing with this through the mid-morning into the early afternoon. That's kind of been what I've been trying to emphasize this morning. By the time you get to around 2 to 3 in the afternoon, most of the actual rain should have moved on, but there may be 1 or 2 tiny little sprinkles that try to hang on, and we're probably still going to be looking at a lot of cloud cover, at least in the early afternoon. And maybe some of that cloud cover hangs on until the early evening as well. Dinner time, there may still be some clouds, but our northwestern counties might be trying to make their way out of that. Overall, by the time we get to the late night hours tonight, so maybe 8 to 9, maybe 10 p.m., that's when the clouds will start to move out and you'll really start to feel like, oh wow, a cold front actually did come through here, because it's going to just wipe all of those clouds out, take the rain with it, and not only that, but it's going to replace all of that with really dry air, really cool air, and a really steady breeze as well. So overnight tonight, it's going to get really cold. We're going to have the first night of this cooler air mass parking itself over our area, and it is going to be a lot chillier when you wake up on Monday morning. So the story for the week in terms of rain chances, after this moves on, we really don't have another widespread shot at rain, at least during the upcoming work week. Through Monday, again, it's that first day of having the drier air settling in from the cold front, so we're all the way dry through Monday. Tuesday, what's actually going to happen for Tuesday is another cold front is on the way to the area. So as this cold front tries to come through here, it'll still try to act as a forcing mechanism, but we're completely dry. We don't really have any moisture in the area, so it's not really going to have a ton to pick up and lift up into the air. But what you see on the future view there, that is actually the front trying to make its way through here. It may briefly bring through a couple of clouds, but I think our rain chances are extremely low. I think at most we may catch maybe 1 stray sprinkle. I threw a 10% on there just to say maybe 1 or 2 clouds might get a little bit heavy, but other than that, the rain chance for Tuesday basically near 0. And this cold front is actually going to do the opposite of what this cold front is doing. It's going to dry our air back out one more time, so that by the time we head into the rest of the upcoming week, we really just don't have any rain chances for the whole week. Both of these fronts are just going to reinforce the dry air in our area, and we are going to stay completely dry through the work week and into the upcoming weekend. So I paused here at Saturday just to kind of show you, by the time we get to the weekend, things start to look, at least on the long range, like they may get a little bit messier. I do think we have some changes coming to the pattern of our atmosphere by the time we get to the weekend. So right now, there's no necessarily guaranteed promised rain chance, but at least for Sunday, it starts to look like we could have maybe a couple of showers in our area, maybe not potentially quite as widespread as what you see here on the long range models, but it does look like maybe next Sunday, so a week from today, we could have another shot at seeing a couple of showers. We'll have to see how this pan out. I always say this, but you know how it goes when we have these long range models. I mean, Sunday is not even on the 7-day forecast yet, so a lot can change, and we obviously have to kind of pick up on the factors of what's going on with the pattern of our atmosphere over the next couple of days to get an idea of what Sunday's rain chance will really be like. All you really need to know for now, Monday through Friday, completely dry. There's a little bit of a pencil on the weekend about what that could look like. So that's at least the rain chances for the upcoming week. In terms of what we're seeing today, just to kind of show you the rainfall totals that are expected from today, extremely low rainfall totals are going to fall. Unfortunately, it's just not going to be very heavy rainfall, and again, the front itself is actually a little bit of a quick mover. In fact, let's go ahead and see if we can tap into some of the rainfall totals that have fallen already. I'm going to look at the last 48 hours here and see. It may take this map a second, or it may not show anything. I'm expecting to see at least a little bit of light blue. There we go. And yeah, you can see, I mean, it's just really not very impressive at all. I think I'll try to pick up on one of the heavier spots. And yeah, we just really haven't had that much rainfall. I know you probably notice it. You may have had to hit the windshield wipers a couple of times, but overall, in total, it's just really not been a lot. So that is actually kind of unfortunate, because if you're familiar, we've been under some drought conditions over the last month or so, and I don't really think that this is going to do much in terms of correcting these drought conditions. So down in kind of our southern half, south of I-16, we're in moderate drought conditions. North of that, it's still abnormally dry. And then over towards our western counties, so creeping into parts of Upson and Taylor counties, there is kind of an entryway into the severe drought category. So unfortunately, we could really use good rainfall totals, although it's nice to have a little bit of moisture out there today and take a little bit of a break from just the consistent dry pattern. It's not doing a ton in correcting our drought conditions. So we'll kind of keep our eye on this. We'll see what happens with next weekend's rain chance and just keep crossing our fingers that something a little bit heavier rolls along. But that's what you should know in terms of rain chances for today. It's really just going to be through the morning and the early afternoon, and then we'll be a lot quieter heading into the evening tonight. And like I said, temperatures are really going to start to cool down in the evening tonight. Take a look at the almanac from yesterday. The low yesterday morning was 53 degrees. The high was 84 degrees. So we've had a consistent week of having high temperatures somewhere in the 80s. Obviously today is going to be a little bit cooler because of the rain that we have out there. But after this cold front really starts to set in, it's actually going to do a pretty good thing for high and low temperatures in the upcoming week. High temperatures as we go into the work week are going to stay actually in the 70s. Now, I know you're probably thinking, okay, well, what about Tuesday? There's a brief 80-degree number on Tuesday. That is true. Tuesday, we are going to briefly jump back to the 80s. That second round of cold front that comes through here briefly before the front actually pushes through, and this happens a lot with frontal boundaries, we're going to have what's called warm air advection. So warmer air is going to surge ahead of the cold front, and that's actually going to just drive the numbers up at least before the front comes through here. So Tuesday will be a little bit warmer, but after Tuesday, the highs themselves will drop right back down into the mid 70s. So a really pleasant week is ahead of us in terms of afternoon highs. Yesterday, we were on, not yesterday, but earlier this week, we were on a 30-degree temperature spread each day. We would bottom out in the low 50s each morning, and then we would top out in the afternoons in the low 80s. So 30-degree difference between the morning and the afternoons, that's really hard to dress for. You probably were chilly in the mornings and then pretty hot by the time we got to the afternoon. We should be able to correct that a bit this week. Obviously, 70s are not cold. It will still be pretty warm in the afternoons, but we're getting a little bit closer to not having these crazy temperature swings from the morning to the afternoon. So the mornings themselves, and I actually don't have the morning low graphic, so I'll show you on the 7-day, but I'm not done just yet because I do want to touch on the tropics. The mornings themselves are actually going to be a lot cooler. I think this is the part I'm personally bracing myself for because I am not a cold weather person, and I know these mornings are just going to have a little bit more of a bite to them than the last week. We're going to be in the 40s as opposed to the 50s. Now, it doesn't probably seem like that big of a change, but I do think you'll have a noticeable difference each morning. If you've been kind of sneaking out the door without really feeling like you need a jacket, this may be the week where you're thinking, okay, yeah, it's actually a little bit chillier in the mornings or in the evenings when the sun starts to go down. We'll probably be in the 50s as opposed to the 60s each night. So, in the grand scheme of things, it's not a total major change, but dropping down about 10 degrees in the overnights and in the afternoons will probably be a little bit noticeable to you through the week. If that's your thing, if you are into fall and you're into the cool weather, I think this is a great forecast for you. If you're a little more like me and you tend to be just cold all the time and you love the warm weather, this will be the week to just grab an extra jacket, keep one in your car or things like that, because it's definitely going to feel a little bit chillier this week. So obviously that's a look at the 7-day. There's not a ton to touch on other than the change in temperatures and the rain chance for today. But before I hop off, I do want to briefly mention what's going on with the tropics right now. So we're kind of rounding the corner on the end of tropic season. Obviously it's not over just yet. We have until November 30th till the official end of hurricane season. But as we head into the second half of October, typically this is when we tend to see a big decrease in activity. So there hasn't been a ton going on in the tropics this year. In fact, in the United States, this is the first time in 10 years that we've made it to mid-October without seeing a landfalling hurricane. Obviously, we did have Tropical Storm Chantal earlier this year, but we haven't had any landfalling hurricanes, and that is definitely abnormal for the United States. Nobody's complaining. That's very good news. I would love to make it to the end of the season without seeing anything, but there is an area that the National Hurricane Center has highlighted for medium chances of tropical development. It's actually been deemed Invest 98L. So if you're not familiar with the term Invest, I know we throw that around a lot with the tropics. It really just means that the National Hurricane Center is kind of looking further into what this potential area of tropical formation could become. So Usually it means that they are pretty confident that we'll see some sort of tropical system within the next 7 days, or at least within the lifespan of whatever system they're monitoring. So overall, it just kind of means, okay, there's pretty good chances that this system here could become some sort of tropical system. Whether that is a tropical depression, a tropical storm, or something stronger like a hurricane still remains to be seen, but it's likely to have some sort of tropical characteristic to it in its lifespan. So this is a tropical wave, again, that rolled off the west coast of Africa, the same old story that you're used to seeing with tropic season. Right now, it's kind of east of the Windward Islands and the Caribbean Sea. While it's over in this area, you can see the X. There's an area of showers and thunderstorms. It's still somewhat disorganized because this tropical wave itself is actually moving really, really quickly. It's moving about 20 to 25 miles per hour out towards the west. So it's not really slowing down enough to give those showers and storms enough time to organize around it. It's kind of moving quick. It's moving ahead of its own showers and thunderstorms. So not necessarily an organized system yet, but it's obviously showing some gradual signs of development. It's going to bring some heavy rainfall and some strong winds to the Windward Islands throughout the day today and into Monday, and then it will move over into the Caribbean Sea. So while it's doing this, there's not really high chances of development. It's only a 10% chance of developing over the next 2 days. Obviously, it has to make its way over land, and like I said, the tropical wave is still moving really quickly, so it's not giving this system enough time to really sit and organize. What happens though as it moves into the tropical or to the Caribbean Sea is it does kind of stall out. It's going to sit over the Caribbean Sea for enough time for these disorganized showers and thunderstorms to potentially organize around the tropical wave itself. So that's why that area over the Caribbean Sea is highlighted in orange. That's the area that we're going to be watching into the upcoming week for potential tropical formation. It's got a 60% chance over the next 7 days, so starting to enter into medium to high range in terms of potential development chances. I would say by midweek next week, at least what the National Hurricane Center is saying, they say we could potentially have a tropical depression by midweek next week. Right now, this is kind of just something to keep our eye on. Long-range models do kind of agree on the formation of at least something next week, so we'll kind of pay attention to this as we go into the rest of the upcoming week. But right now, it's kind of anything but certain, and it's not something that you'll hear about at least in the next 2 days. More likely, we'll have answers on this in the next 7 days. So that's kind of what's going on with the tropics. Obviously, that's also what's going on with our area here. Hopefully that gives you a little more perspective. If you got outdoor plans today, I think just kind of wait it out until the afternoon, and then the rain itself should start to move on, and we should be having a little bit of a drier evening this evening, especially if you have late night plans tonight. If you're heading out to dinner, in fact, that's actually something I'm doing tonight, so I've been thinking a lot about it today. It's going to be nice, but grab a jacket on your way out the door because the breeze will start to settle in, and the temperatures overnight tonight are just going to have a little bit more of a bite to them as we wind down tonight and then kick off tomorrow morning. So overall, hopefully a little bit drier if you got outdoor plans for the rest of the day, and then we kick off a much more fall-like upcoming work week with very low rain chances until we get to this time next week. So we'll continue to keep you updated on the rain chances for next week. Obviously, enjoy the fall weather this week and just continue to enjoy the sunshine despite the fact that we could use the rain. Meteorologist Ansley Parker will be in this evening to talk a little more about the forecast at 6 and at 11 and streaming at 7:30 on 13 WMAZ Plus. Until then, I will leave you with the satellite and radar. Let me just pull that up here. And I thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a great, restful, wonderful Sunday, and we will see you right back here tonight.